Hey, this is Dave Noonan. Thank you so much for watching. In today's video, going to talk about 5 books that had the largest impact on my life science sales career. And what I mean by impact, it's books that I actually took information from having read the book and applied it in some meaningful way into my day-to-day activities such that it had an impact or a benefit on my career in life sciences. So thankfully, I've read more than 5 books, but if I'm being honest, not all of them have had an impact based on my actual application of the material. So that is the criteria for this particular list. And what is a conversation about books without a Dr. Seuss quote? And this is from a book that, I don't know, a huge percentage of folks, at least in the United States, probably get as a gift from their high school graduation. And the quote I picked was: the more that you read, the more things that you will know, the more that you learn, the more places you'll go. And appropriate for high school graduates for sure, but I felt very much like it spoke to my career early on, in particular in life sciences. I really think there was some truth in this age old quote from Dr. Seuss. So let's dig into book number one, which is The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Dr. Stephen R. Covey. I remember listening to this book in my Chevy Equinox driving around Paterson, New Jersey as a new sales rep. It was read by Dr. Covey. His voice was just awesome. And there were a few of the 7 habits that really stood out that I took to heart and hope and believe that I put into practice. And the first is his concept of being proactive, that when it comes to effective people, people who have great careers or accomplish great things, they are proactive. They are not reactive, they're not victims. They take control and accountability of their situation and are proactive in their approach. And that really resonated with me, and something that I took from that book, had an impact on me. The second, I would argue, is maybe the most known of the 7 habits, this idea of beginning with the end in mind. And the idea being, of course, that before you undertake any kind of initiative, do you get started knowing where you're going or where you want to go, so that your actions in turn can be lined up with that end. And so it's a very simple concept, but truly transformational if you actually start behaving and putting that habit into place. And third, the concept of seeking first to understand, then to be understood. And I was lucky enough to be a manager at a couple of different organizations in life sciences. And while I don't think I was perfect when it came to this topic, but it really influenced how I wanted to and hope that I showed up as a leader. That really interest in first, before you get a chance to talk, understanding the other person's position. So if you've been in the development space for a while, chances are you've read this book or at least heard of it, but a huge impact on my career, especially early on. The second is Talent is Overrated by Jeff Colvin. The title alone would be enough. I wouldn't have even had to have read the book. The idea that talent is overrated from someone like me who considers himself not to be particularly talented was transformational. And the idea that you can be successful, and that many of the most successful people did not rely on talent alone, certainly, but other things was just incredible for me to dig into early in my life sciences career. Couple things I took away that impacted me from this book. One, just the idea that talent's developed. It's not purely genetic. Of course, there's some element of genetics in place, but true talent and skill is developed intentionally through deliberate practice. And so this is one of the places where the concept of 10,000 hours of practice comes from. I know that's been debunked in a number of different places. So, not getting into the 10,000 hours part, but the idea of deliberate, intentional, specific practice, as opposed to simply working hard or practicing, very transformational, huge impact in my career as I developed in life sciences. So, great book. Number three, Jack, Straight from the Gut by Jack Welch, former CEO of General Electric. This was sort of his autobiography. I listened to it on CD. Tells you how old I am, back in the day as well. I loved it. He read it, his New England accent. I just enjoyed so much listening to him tell the million stories that exist in this, as it really talks about his career path and progression through up to and including being CEO of General Electric, and that's one of the things I took away from the book was just his drive and his ambition, and how he moved through a variety of roles and how he looked at it. I definitely took some of that to heart as I looked at my own career path and progression in life sciences. And the second, while his reputation has mixed reviews when it comes to people and performance, just the idea throughout this book that all that he accomplished had everything to do with the people that he worked with as opposed to him personally, and his focus on performance and rewarding high performance, and if necessary moving on from people who are not performing, really had a great influence on me. And I'd like to think maybe there are some things that I pulled into my career and influenced how I progressed on my journey. So Jack, straight from the gut. He has other books too, but this one for me was probably the most powerful and had the most impact. Next, It's Not About You, another book that I could just have rested on the title and probably not read it and still walked away with something, but it's by Bob Berg and John David Mann. Was told as a parable. So not always love books that are told as parable. I happen to really like this one. And my takeaways: one, hold the vision. There's great content here about not just having a vision. That's not that hard to do, but holding the vision over time as a leader, in particular, can be incredibly powerful. And as a salesperson too, as you hold the vision for the folks that you're interacting with, healthcare providers, and not forgetting where you came from is another really big lesson from Hold the Vision. Another big part of the parable here was about doing the work. You got to do the work to be successful, and I took that to heart from It's Not About You. And the other one of the key tenets in this book, as the parable unfolded, was the idea that to be successful, to see a business thrive, is to stand for something, and to really stand by it, to live by it, and that people resonate with that when you're a leader. And again, I think I still have growth in this area, but it really had an impact on me as I went through. And I did a book study actually with one of my teams when I was a district manager on this concept that I really enjoyed as well. So to me, it's a very worthwhile, quick read if you haven't read this one. And finally, Linchpin by Seth Godin, another super popular blogger and author and entrepreneur. I've probably given away copies of this book more than any other book in my career. Key takeaways for me: one is just the idea of being a linchpin. The subtitle of the book is "Are You Indispensable?" A huge impact on me. The idea of not just being a cog in the wheel, a replaceable worker, but becoming someone that is indeed a linchpin, is indispensable in an organization. And how do you put yourself in position to be that? I mean, truly a transformational concept in the book. Number two, give your work all you have. So instead of being so focused on the next job you want or the job that you really were shooting for, give your work, the job you're in today. If you're the barista at Starbucks, a great story in the book about that, or whatever role in life sciences you have, give your work all you have. That's how, and is one of the ways you can become a linchpin and be indispensable, no matter what your work circumstances might be. And lastly, the idea of having professional courage, that looking at your work as art and having professional courage to be you and find ways that you can be unique and add value and be different, often putting yourself out on a limb when necessary. Another huge part of the book for me. And so to wrap this video up, notice this was not a book review. It was 5 books that had an impact. If you want a book review, I'm sure they're out there on all of these 5 books. It was just meant to show what I took away. And this is a summary. And I thought it was an interesting exercise. Maybe this is something you might do as a takeaway from watching this video. But I just took all of my takeaways and put them on one slide here and looked at it and said, does this represent me? Is this a good picture, if you will, of things that make me who I am today in life sciences? And maybe it's not perfect, but it's actually a pretty decent picture. And so, again, maybe an exercise you can do when you think about the books that were influential in your life sciences sales or other career for that matter. To that end, if you want to let me know books that you thought could have been on the list for you, leave me a comment. I would love to know. And if you like this video and want to see others similar to it, go ahead and visit davenoonan.me. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.